So we have covered a bunch on the interactions between China and the Philippines and the interactions between U.S. backing up the Philippines, or at least meeting with them, and of course saying that there are certain things that they want to help with. As far as China's Xi has just basically told his Coast Guard to enforce the map that they put out more recently. China's President Xi Jinping attends the leaders' retreat in Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. And out of this came, said that the country's Coast Guard must enforce maritime law and crack down on, quote, criminal activities to defend China's territorial sovereignty. And it said Xi made the comments that as he inspected the China Coast Guard's command office for the East China Sea and the performance of the Coast Guard's ship by video, Xinhua News Agency reported. It says, quote, it is necessary to establish and improve the coordination and cooperation mechanism of the maritime law enforcement. Severely crack down on illegal and criminal activities at sea. The president also said it is necessary to pragmatically carry out exchanges and cooperation with foreign countries in maritime law enforcement and actively participate in international and regional maritime governance. All of this doublespeak, again, is going to translate soon. It says the Chinese Coast Guard had several confrontations with vessels from the Philippines in disputed territorial waters in the South China Sea. And China's top leader also said it was important to maintain the healthy development of China's marine economy. All of this sounds normal, right? Well, apparently they have now essentially zeroed in on the Philippines, and they consider every last piece of their marine system there in that area as criminal activity. In fact, they all of the islands that are disputed, all of this area that they say is theirs, that the world disagrees, that says is international waters, they are now going to enforce their Coast Guard, basically taking these things out or being able to do more. As far as the Philippines, we've seen the boat that was actually washed up on shore that the Philippines actually has quite a few people living on to claim that territory. The washed up military boat, they have been hosed. The Coast Guard has essentially hosed them with high pressure hoses. They have done shots over the bow. They have stopped ships from supplying them. They've done all sorts of things. But main thing is now it's heating up between China and the Philippines. We're going to talk today about all of the other small conflicts that are going on, including Venezuela putting a vote to invade their neighbor. Like, how many conflicts are we about to see? And how many countries are we about to see go at a smaller conflict before it ends up a very, very big one? We'll talk about all of this and more, and Philippines' response in just a minute. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. So some good comments in the chat there, and I didn't catch the name of who said that, and said that China doesn't care about us, that their culture is 5,000 years old. I don't know how old it is exactly. But I do know that it is a very, very old culture. And if you could put it in perspective and just sit in the other seat there, China and the culture and everything there has been around a lot longer than, say, the American culture. America, Constitution in 1776. It is kind of crazy to think about in a world scale, like who has taken power and really ruled the planet for what time periods. And a lot of folks are actually relating the U.S. to a modern day Rome. You hear that everywhere, that people are saying that we're the modern day Rome, and this whole thing's about to collapse. The scary part is there's a lot of signs that that might be the case. And that's not to scare people. That's just the realistic kind of situation we're in. I mean, if you really take some of the events that have happened in just the last couple of years, and if you do, if you go down the really crazy route, which looks like it's real, it's like you're talking about they're doing things in our government that smaller countries do, as far as, try to imprison your opponents, like things like that. Like, this is absolutely crazy what we're living through. And then, of course, the whole device that helped us, pick who is in charge and stuff like that, the stuff that went down with that, it's very spooky. So when we think of China, China doesn't care about all of that. China's in the long game. And I've said this before. They are getting ready. They are building up, and they're ready for the long game. They knew this back in the 90s when they backed off of Taiwan. When we sent a carrier group, that scared them off. Now it doesn't scare them off. In fact, when they started messing with Taiwan, when this all really got picked up again, we sent a carrier group. They ended up responding by surrounding Taiwan. It's like they were like, nope, we've got the largest navy now. They're confident. So that's a freaky thing. They're building military like we've never seen before. And if you see how they build in China, it's absolutely nuts as far as what is going on. Thank you. But they know exactly what is going on. And it's pretty freaky to see what's happening right now with them in the Philippines, because now we're about to have multiple small battles going on, and it looks like it's about to pick up. So before we get started, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go over to the website. You'll find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. Just look for today's thumbnail: Trouble in Every Country, Imminent Threat, and World at Brink. And then click on that. You'll find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are sharing here today. Not only that, you'll find a whole lot more there, so make sure to go check that out every day. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam. Hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So there's a lot happening right now between the Philippines. Do you want to go over the Philippines opens a Coast Guard surveillance base in the South China Sea?
Yeah, so they just celebrated the inauguration of it today. So they have a new monitoring base. It's on a remote island. This is one of the islands in the South China Sea archipelago, and it has been inhabited by the Philippines for many, many years now. But it's not a lot of people. It's a relatively small island, about 91 acres, but it's certainly in that contested area. And by now having, full internet, stable power, water supply, even a newly cemented runway, and now they've added schools and other things, they've certainly built up, uh, more on this island than what than I guess China would probably like. But they're basically doing this because they're trying to monitor what's happening with their ships in the confrontation that's happening around that we've seen with that other small, like, deserted ship that they've turned into a base, right? That they're claiming, and of course China doesn't want them there. They've had everything from ships ramming into one another to shooting lasers at one another to shooting water cannons at one another, and these things are just escalating more and more. So this is the latest level of escalation: is putting up a surveillance base and trying to surveil that. So we'll see. I think this is one of one of the many continued responses we're going to see from Philippines. And I actually feel like we're going to see something play out between China and the Philippines if they continue going down this path.
And we have North Korea, as Kim calls for military readiness against any provocations. There's been a lot of chatter about a surprise attack from North Korea. And they even did drills that basically made it look like North Korea may be thinking about some sort of surprise attack, sort of like what Hamas did to Israel. At least that's what the militaries are thinking, right? They ended up drilling in a hypothetical scenario that North Korea attacked South Korea and used artillery to do so, and that they would be hypothetically taking out the origins of it or the artillery weapons. At the same time, North Korea has actually made a lot of threats regarding this, but they are on the end of publicly saying that they believe something is going to happen to them first. So whichever side you may believe or think it's both all BS, they are definitely talking about it right now, and they keep bringing up North Korea. How is North Korea even in the news so much? You would think even if they were making empty threats, and they actually haven't made too many empty threats, why does it pop up so much in the news? Does the media like covering it to scare people? Because half of the time it's a response to something that we do. But they, of course, have made a lot of threats. If you look at in South Korea, which we back up, they do actually communicate with South Korea a whole lot more, and they make a whole lot more threats than what we see here in the United States. So I wonder if something is in the works and we're going to see some sort of Fantastic Freddy where North Korea does something, and then, of course, South Korea and the U.S. respond, something that triggers a World War III event. It said North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has called for the military's readiness to respond to any provocation by enemies, state media said on Friday, after Pyongyang vowed to deploy stronger armed forces and new weapons on its border with the South. Remember, they're getting a lot of these weapons from Russia. They're exchanging artillery shells and different things for Russia. In return, they are getting advanced weapons. We already know that they have gotten a super EMP weapon from Putin. Now they just launched another satellite, which they say has actually taken pictures of the Pentagon and the White House. So it's kind of freaky to see that. Visiting the Air Force headquarters on Thursday to mark country's Airmen Day, Kim rolled out operational strategic guidelines to improve the military's readiness and war capabilities. If this was any other place, like, we really wouldn't pay much attention to it, but it's a daily basis. Is that because media knows that people are fascinated with North Korea, or is it because it is an actual threat? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And then the UN delegates circulate petition to shut down U.S. natural gas production as the global summit kicks off. So they are now pushing a huge push to actually end all of the gas production. Global delegates heading to the annual United Nations climate, and of course it is the UN that is a big part of this, are circulating a letter calling for the U.S. and other Western nations to immediately ban new natural gas infrastructure projects, according to the letter obtained exclusively by Fox News. And it says Senator Ed Markey, a Democrat out of Massachusetts, is among the lead architects of the effort, in addition to Lisa Badam, a member of the German parliament, who is leading her nation's delegations at the summit. Her Canadian Senator Rosa Galvez Markey, Badam, and Galvez sent a letter to other U.S. lawmakers and global representatives ahead of the COP28 conference, which kicks off Thursday in Dubai. At COP26, the United States, along with 39 governments and institutions, signed the Glasgow Statement, pledging to prioritize clean energy transition and end new direct public support for the international fossil fuel sector by 2022, the letter states. This is the very least we can do, considering that even existing production capacities even exceed the limits set by the Paris Agreement. It said, despite this, the United States is hurling towards a massively harmful expansion of liquefied natural gas infrastructure. Regrettably, there exists similar plans in many other countries, including Germany, the U.S., and in Canada. The letter further argues that while liquefied natural gas, or LNG, has been cooled to enable easier transport, was originally looked at as a means to, quote, tackle the consequences of global energy crisis. Additionally, LNG capacity is not needed. That, of course, is from the weather advocates, have long opposed LNG and natural gas production Since burned for power production, it produces greenhouse gas emissions. However, natural gas has widely been looked at as a replacement for coal since it's a source of reliable power and produces roughly 40% less carbon dioxide. U.S. carbon emissions have declined nearly 20% since 2005, driven in large part by a transition from coal to natural gas generation in the power sector. So again, what do they want to change it to? Well, they want to change it to green, right? Going green. Well, if you look at all of the different studies that are coming out, which this is going to be an argument for a long time, what is the real agenda here? Because there are a lot of downsides to switching off. What are they not telling us about all of this? Who owns the companies that will end up coming in under this Green Deal? Who owns the technologies, the patents for the things that are actually being suggested that replace natural gas? Once you look that up, you'll start realizing a whole lot about what is happening here. It's very, very strange stuff. Before we move on, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP if you want to support us and get yourself protected against an electromagnetic pulse. In fact, all three phases. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. That helps us support ourselves. We are independent and we do not have a multi-channel network or a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have the Foogle fam. So we appreciate it. This is something that can be easily wired into your cars, trucks, vehicles, boats, RVs, motorhomes, generators, even your ham radio or your home, and it will protect you against not only a sun event like a Carrington level CME or an EMP, it will also protect your home and other devices from lightning. So it's got a triple use there, and it's very easy to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You'll get $50 off on the device, and you'll be helping your favorite channel as well. All right, and then so this is crazy too. Now we've got Venezuela invading its oil-rich neighbor, or should it? They're actually going to be putting a vote to it. Maduro, who we've covered for years, the same guy that almost got taken out by a drone, is now asking if they should take over their oil-rich neighbor. This is yet another conflict that could be going on. And this time, we'll actually know a whole lot before it happens because they're taking a vote on it. It says Venezuelans going to the polls on Sundays will be asked to answer an unusually provocative question. Should their government be given a blank check to invade neighboring Guyana? It says, and wrest away 3/4 of oil-rich territory. The government of Nicolas Maduro is putting the query before voters, part of a century-old territorial dispute between Venezuela and Guyana. It says that is raising tensions in the region and threatening to escalate into a shooting war. So this is really important because, again, something else is going on here. Venezuela is heavily involved with Iran, and something else could be afoot here. Not to mention the whole ties between Russia, Venezuela, Iran, Venezuela, China, Venezuela, Venezuela and Cuba, all of these other things that are going on at the same time. Something is up. Dex, we're actually doing research right now, all of the connections between all these countries. Many average people would just look right past this. But this is a big deal. This could also spread us thin.
Well, it certainly could. This puts a whole nother area of the globe in a potential conflict. It doesn't. I don't think Guyana is just sitting there raising their hand saying, "Please take us over." There's a lot of people there that are worried about this, and it could turn into a conflict, and certainly could turn into people deciding to back, especially those that are against Venezuela. Venezuela is aligned with Russia, China, and Iran, and everybody in BRICS, for example. So they're sort of on the opposite side of the spectrum from where a lot of the Western alliances are. So I could easily see the West sort of saying, no, that's not going to happen. We're going to take a stand because there's a lot of oil there. Although we're all trying to say we need to get away from this oil stuff. We just talked about it a second ago. They want to get rid of it all. Ironically, they're not going to because they'll continue to use that oil for generating the electricity that we all have to use. So it's just making us use a different way. But anyway, I digress. This will be if this gets passed, and whether or not the citizens there actually elect for it, versus they are just told that's what happened because a lot of shenanigans happens with the process in their country for these types of polling. It could very well just be that they're going to do it, and I think it's not coming out of left field, but it sort of is, at least to most of us. Most of us don't pay attention necessarily to what's going on there, and keep in mind some of the tight relationships, especially around oil, that Venezuela has with Iran, and even with that T group that begins with the name Hez. They're actually in Venezuela, so that's another thing that we need to take into consideration and understand as we look at that, which kind of goes hand in hand with what we talked about with a lot of the border crossings and other stuff. So, yeah, this is an area we need to start paying attention to. We're going to keep watching it. We'll see what happens. Maybe this thing will just go away and it's just a big, political scare tactic, which some people are suggesting, but others are taking it pretty serious, especially those that are in Guyana.
Now on the on the right of your screen, that is Guyana, and that is essentially all of it. Let me show you a bigger picture because here you go. That shows most of it. So it is. I'd say Venezuela is probably 5 or 6 times the size of Guyana. So they are talking about taking over this area, or at least 75% of all of the areas that produce the resources. So this is, and then right on top of Brazil. So what the heck is going on here? As people mentioned, Venezuela is also a 30-minute, a fast flight, a jet, a military jet could fly from Venezuela to Florida in about 30 minutes, which is absolutely nuts. And I'm sure that if they loaded up or put missiles there, it would be about the same time. So Venezuela geographically is important too, as far as all of our other adversaries are concerned. And rail havoc in Russia after second explosion in as many days destroys key Devil's Bridge. So we talked about how they did major strikes 3,000 miles inside of Russia. And by the way, this looks like straight out of a scene out of one of the James Bond films or something. I swear I've seen that bridge before. But it says another fuel train explosion on Russia's Baku-Amur mainline signals the second phase of the strategic operation by Ukraine's SBU to disrupt this vital railway route. It says Russians utilized this mainline, including for military logistics purposes. The initial incident occurred on the Severomusky tunnel, prompting Russians to divert the use of their line through a bypass route known as the Devil's Bridge. However, during a train's passage on this towering 35-meter bridge, embedded explosive devices were triggered, resulting in the ignition of 6 tanks, Russian Telegram channels reported. And I love how now all of the news that is reported is from Russian Telegram channels. Has anybody ever wondered why? Well, I mean, they can't quote RT anymore because RT is banned in the Western world. Or at least it pretty much is. It says a firefighting train was dispatched to extinguish the ensuing blaze. Ukraine's SBU security service executed a controlled detonation in the Besilov Northern Tunnel on the Baku-Amur mainline in Buryatia. So with the explosion that happened there, they hit a really, really important key note. But on the other side, Russia is saying that they are actually advancing in all fronts. So it's kind of who to believe. This is actually out of France 24, and they are covering that the front lines have been barely shifted in 2023, but fighting has remained intense. The latest major flashpoint is the nearly encircled industrial time of Avdiivka, where Ukraine said it was fending off assaults. Our servicemen were acting competently and decisively, occupying a more favorable position and expanding their zones of control in all directions. In a briefing with Russia's top military brass, Shoigu said that their men were effectively and firmly inflicting fire damage on the Ukrainian armed forces, significantly reducing their combat capabilities. His ministry announced on Wednesday that it had taken control of Kharmov, a small village on the outskirts of Bakhmut in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. But other territorial gains have proved elusive. It says improving weather conditions following intense storms across southern Ukraine and Russia earlier this week have enabled Russia's forces to intensify their assaults and use drones again. What's crazy to me is it has been all this time, and they say that UKR did hold its spot, and both sides admit that they've actually had this kind of, back and forth. But overall, Ukraine has lost a whole lot more people than Russia has. Russia's been able to hit them from far out. And when you actually, if you actually watch some of the interviews of some of the colonels and some of the people that are involved in this, our side doesn't say much as far as the U.S. They don't admit much of the losses from Ukraine, but you can see all of the signs of them losing. Like their average age of soldier is now like 45 years old because all of the young guys are now dead. Not to mention now they're looking at adding women to the picture or more women, and they're trying to actively recruit. So who is truly winning, and what happens now that the interest of Russia and Ukraine is gone and the American people just want out, and most of the world does too? What happens to Ukraine, especially when they run out of people? It's not like there's an endless supply of money to go there unless it comes from us. All the rest of the countries which we've covered are basically stopping their support. And then NATO chief tells Turkey, Erdogan, that the time has come to let Sweden join the alliance. So this is really something that you have to read between the lines on. The NATO chief, again, General Jens Stoltenberg, says he has told Turkey's president that, quote, the time has come to let Sweden become a member of the military alliance. Now, why is the time now? Why has the time come? That's my question. Turkey and Hungary are the only two NATO countries that have not yet formally approved Sweden's accession bid. Stoltenberg told the Associated Press that he urged Turkey to finalize the process as he met with the president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, on Friday. It says, quote, I met with the President Erdogan this morning, and I reiterated my message at the time has come to finalize the accession process for Sweden. Now, when you just take that small quote, it's like, well, why has the time has come? They're basically pushing Turkey to accept. Turkey has been the thorn in the side of both Finland and Sweden to join. Finally, Finland was able to, but I think Finland did concessions to Turkey. Something happened there. I remember it wasn't just a free trade. I think NATO or something did something for Turkey in response. So I don't know if Turkey's waiting for some sort of positive concession in their way to do this or what. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, Erdogan did say back in July he would ascend. He would submit the ascension papers or documents. But then when they adjourned last month, it still hadn't happened. So, I guess he's holding on or holding out. And now with what's happening in the Middle East, I think we have, another thing to look at because of his position that he's taken against the Western ally Israel. So this seems like pressure on him to get Erdogan to actually make the vote happen so they can move forward. But at the same time, I think he's holding out. He likes to play all the sides.
Yeah, he's definitely a two-faced guy. If you look at his actions, you don't have to go by his words. His actions say everything. Let's do a quick roll call. We've got a lot of great people, including Ilea was in chat. Thank you so much for being here. We've had Rip Curl a lot this week. Thank you so much. Trinity was in last night. That was awesome. Briar Patch, thank you. Jammer, thank you. Chance, thank you. Let's do a quick roll call. Where are you from? Just a general state, and you can find other Foogle family members from the state or province or country. Lord Andrew from Florida. We've got Gerald Pale Horse from Colorado. What is going on? We've got Wisconsin in the house. Kenny Cams. Hey, Kenny. Nice to see you, man. We got to connect, man. Thank you for showing up. And then Bobby Birch, Master Blocker from Brooklyn, NYC. We've got Nana of 7 from VA. We've got Jammer 1, top of Indiana. Nice to see you. Robert 49, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Nice to see you. Baron Saturday, local from Washington State. Sign Digger from Moonville, Alaska. We've got Lorraine, Ohio. Mama Wolf of Callahan. Thank you. Spawn, what is happening? We've got Randy Man from Frisco, Texas. And then We Need from PA. Sean C. And we've got Truth Bites from BX, baby. What is BX? Is that, what is BX? I can't think of the abbreviation for that one. Chicago, what is happening? We've got Finlay, Ohio in the house. Zach Young, nice to see you. And Norma Liskey from Oklahoma. We've got South Australia in the house. Helix, West Kentucky, the Bronx, Heaven. I love it. East, well, you could actually, there's a lot of Heaven towns. Saskatchewan, from my bed in Europe. Noni Moose, England. Hey, we've got several folks from Europe here. Thank you guys for spending your time here. I don't even know what time it is there. Curious. In fact, this is going to be really cool. We can see the time zones instead of state. Say what time it is, PM or AM right now, where you are in chat. I think that will be pretty interesting. I'll put that on screen. What time is it right now where you are? Right now it is 9:10 p.m. in Seattle. 5:10 a.m. You can tell how far people are. 5:10 here in England. 11 p.m. We're going to get a lot of 9, 10, and 11 p.m.s. But other than that, then you know they're global. Yeah, look at that. Shirley Pasley, Montana. What is going on? J.R. Palehorse. Thank you guys. Baron Saturday. Look at that. So many folks from all over the place. Okay. And before we go forward, make sure to go check out EMP Shield, marfooglenews.com/EMP. You guys know, again, most of you already know, but this is a device that can protect you against EMP. It can protect you against CMEs, and really a lot of you, if you haven't, you already know what it does. You know you probably need it. One thing I would say, though, is this is something that you aren't going to need until you need, and once you do, again, it's going to save your butt. I would say if you can't get it now, I would say put $10 aside every, paycheck or so, and then put it aside until you can get it, and then get it on your vehicle at least, so you'll be able to travel. That would be the most useful way to do it. Or if you're going to bug in, then I would most definitely guaranteed get one on your house. It will protect everything within 250 linear feet of where it is wired in, and all of your plugged-in devices will survive. Now, the power may not come back on for 2 years, but your generators will be able to power your devices because they're not fried. Your car will still run, your motorcycle will still drive, your boat will still float. So go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. There's all sorts of sales going on again, so make sure to go check it out. You get $50 off with our code, so make sure to use that code MARF. And let's see here. After years of building up its navy, Saudi Arabia is testing its new warships with real-world missions. Dex, do you want to go over that?
Well, yeah, here we go. Another country entering the potential war space in the water with their navy. So they've got brand new warships that are out now, and this is Saudi Arabia. Now, mind you, they have tons of money, obviously, from all the gas they sell, so they can afford this. But they also have been, for the longest time, highly aligned with the U.S. So getting access to information and technology so they could build stuff was probably relatively easy over the years. Now it seems like they've sort of started to make a shift now. Maybe they don't feel like they need us anymore, since they've been spending most of their time lately hobnobbing with G and the rest of the BRICS partnerships. So, but anyway, this new fleet is coming out. It's a Saudi naval force, and it's got brand new fancy warships that they're going to be rolling out. And I think it came from maybe Lockheed, I believe. Lockheed Martin was one of the builders, as well as others. I'm sure they're coming, I'm sure we're making a lot of it, or making a ton of the components for it from our industrial complex. Because again, we've had that long alliance, and these things weren't built overnight. So these have been built for many years. But pretty impressive looking vehicle there for Saudis.
Somebody made a comment about their car, working car after an EMP will be a big target. I think a lot more of that is, and it for sure will be after a few days, and after a while, yeah, a running car would be a big target. But if you can drive out of there, it'd be much better. But I think a lot of that comes from the movies that we watch. We always see the movies where everybody who has a running car is surrounded by a whole crowd of people trying to break in their window and take them out of it, right? There very well will be situations like that. But the main point is that you'll be able to get from point A to point B. And really, if you are a prepper, then you know it's the first 24 hours that are the most important. In fact, it's the first 3 hours after something that happens that is really important. And that first 72 hours where you need to be where you need to go. So you're not driving around going to the store or going to work back and forth after an EMP. You're trying to get to your bug out spot. And if you don't have a bug out spot, then you're either bugging in or you haven't planned out ahead. And either way, that is a problem that you would need to fix. Other problems, and there are problems, like even if your car runs, what good is it going to do if there's freeways where you can't drive? All of the cars are stopped and there's no way to get through. It's not like you have some sort of tractor trailer to knock everything out of the way, or a snow plow to get everybody out of the way. But that's why a lot of folks now have not only their vehicle, but they also have a protected scooter or something like it, or a bicycle that they have in their trunk. So if you get caught, and this was a scenario that a lot of people ran through their heads when there was the false missile alert in Hawaii. People were sitting there in traffic and they couldn't go anywhere, and then you get a thing on the radio saying, in 15 minutes or in 30 minutes you're going to be hit with a nuclear bomb. It's like, you got to move. People were stuck on an island. Like, what are they going to do? Well, they can at least get to the water, try to get on a boat, try to get away. But how are you going to do that if you can't even get past traffic? There's a lot of things to think about, but you're really preparing for worst case and you're hoping for the best scenario. I would stay off of main roads. I would go back roads. I would go on lawns. I mean, all of those road rules don't really apply to you when the EMP hits. So you can go on walking trails. You can drive wherever you want as long as you can get there. And then Italian city braces for collapse of the leaning tower. So Dex, can you grab a couple pictures of this? This was actually
It should have loaded.
Yeah, no, I know, but this
Okay.
picture is really small and tiny. There's not very many good pictures of this online. It's kind of like, yeah, it doesn't show the angle that it's leaning. The smaller tower here, I didn't even know about this before. The Italian city of, and how do you say that? It's not Bologna. It's not Bologna. Is it really Bologna?
I believe it's Bologna.
Huh. It says the Italian city of Bologna is preparing for one of its iconic towers built more than 900 years ago to collapse due to excessive leaning. The Tower of Gerasenda, twinned by the nearly Assini Tower, is one of Bologna's hallmark sites, standing at just 150 feet tall. Now, what I thought was weird is if you see the other angles and the other pictures of this, it doesn't, I see the small one leaning really bad. But they say that the big one is set to collapse. I don't really see, it looks pretty straight up and down. And if you look at other angles, it's the smaller one that looks like it's really bad. Now, everybody knows about the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but not too many people know about the Gerasenda. Let's see here. So check this out. Yeah, here's some other pictures. Thank you, Dex.
Sure thing.
Let's see here. Okay, Dex, you found a pretty good angle. So this is the other one leaning. I don't know if that's a fisheye lens too, but you can definitely tell this is flush, the building down here, and then you see how far off this leans. It's a trip. Things like this, if this collapses, I don't know how many of you have traveled the world, but most of us, before we die, want to see a lot of these things. It's really sad. Most people spend their whole lives in the same state or the same city. There are so many crazy, awesome wonders all around the world that I would love to see. Some that have already been, had huge events happen, like the Notre Dame fire and other things like that. It's like, it's not the same if they've had to rebuild it or to fix it, or it's just gone. So that's pretty sad. So I guess we'll see when it actually collapses.
How would you like to live next door?
Yeah, right. There's apartments right below. Look at all the houses and different places that are right in the path. But look at how cool this town is. Look at this. The streets there must be super confusing, I guess, and it all centers out from this. There's a really, if you really want a fascinating video about buildings and just really crazy buildings, look up the wall city of Kowloon. I think it's Kowloon. I'll show you real quick. Really just unbelievable. There was a Chinese fort that was essentially settlers ended up, after it was a Chinese military fort, they used the same footprint to make a city. Kowloon. Is it Kowloon? No, I don't think that is. Kowloon Walled City. So there is a super nuts.
There is a recurring.
Let me show you an image of what this thing. There's a map picture here. So it was a square block, right? This is one of the coolest things in history. This thing was built on the footprint of a base, and then they just kept building up. In fact, let me see if, I think there's a way to do frame by frame. They built it up and they kept building it up, and they attached the entire thing. So it was something crazy, like 1 million people that lived in this tiny area, and they kept building it up. And if you can imagine like a tree house, that they built a tree house next to it and next to it and next to it, and they connected them all vertically, horizontally, on every which way. There's so many crazy I guess they couldn't map the place. It was so complex that it was like a living organism that it kept growing, and it finally got taken down a few years ago, but everything was connected, and they had all of these weird buildings. Dex, go ahead.
Are you showing it on screen?
Oh my gosh. Well, luckily they didn't miss it because I was scanning. So check this out. This is so crazy. I didn't want to show the other parts of it here. Hold on. So it's this absolutely nuts city, and it had this is like an artistic version, but this is I don't know. This might actually be one of the real photos. So it was inside, and everything was built off of everything. This kind of gives you an idea that I believe is a real photo. So things were built together. There was no solid map. They could not map it. By the time they would map it, it had changed. And it was because they could not go outside of the footprint. So they had to end up going side to side. And they actually explain like how they would build. There was all of these cut throughs. So there would be like a convenience store on the 30th or the 20th floor, and it would serve, 8 floors, and they would have gambling casinos. They would have all sorts of things. And it was like completely in its own world. Like this looks like a Where's Waldo page or something. So yeah, if you really are fascinated by the architecture and just crazy stuff like that, this is a really great video. I will share this. It was really interesting, and it is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Despite, wherever this was in a part of China. But it makes you wonder, like, gosh, if they could fit that many people into such a small area, and they're talking about overpopulation, geez. And then Drivers would pay $15 to enter the busiest part of Manhattan under a plan to raise funds for mass transit. So I think that this is actually going to go through, and many people think that this would be absolutely insane, only because I live in a state that when they say something like this, it just happens. And I think New York is a whole lot like that as well. They say passenger car drivers entering Manhattan south of 60th Street during daytime hours would be charged $15 electronically. Trucks would be charged more. It says most drivers would pay $15 to enter Manhattan's Central Business District under a plan released by New York officials on Thursday. The congestion pricing plan, which neighboring New Jersey has filed a lawsuit over, will be the first such program in the United States if it is approved by the transportation officials early next year, which I guarantee you this will. This is something where that money is going to go probably to Ukraine or something, but judging that all of the states are personally donating money to. Under the plan, passenger car drivers entering Manhattan south of 60th Street during daytime hours would be charged $15 electronically, while a fee for small trucks would be $24 and large trucks would be $36. I wonder, is there going to be a deal for truck drivers that have to go in there on a daily basis? That's nuts. Dex, go ahead.
They estimate they're going to collect $1 billion annually from this. And of course, they're saying it's to upgrade the city's mass transit system, but $1 billion.
You got to be, that's incredible. And that's why I think, they'll do it, especially if there's something that they need. Neil Nelson, thank you for the massive support tonight. I appreciate you, Neil Nelson. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see here. Ilea says, I found out this week that around 60% of human illness is coming from animals, primarily livestock. Zoonotic illnesses suck. Ilea, if you look at what the DHS was doing with that thing, the DHS, the request to small businesses that they put out, they were looking for a cell phone device that could detect transmission of zoonotic propensity. It's they're focused on that, and they're talking and they're practicing like something else way worse is going to happen. But one day, even if you believe that all of this stuff has been perpetrated on us, one day there could be a real, super real, 90%, fatality rate type of thing. That is a reality. That's that could happen. And there's not much we could do about it. And then Keith Simmons says, Waterloo, Iowa veteran loves the Fugel fam. Keith, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then Richard Koschmeider, thank you for the support right off the bat in the beginning of the show. I appreciate that. I used to be in the library, Stephen McMahon. Danish Girl, thank you so much for being here. Stephen McMahon, we've got Stephanie Cook, Grace for you too, Angela Bloom, and Tennessee Mountain Girl. Thank you, and thank you. Thanks for your support this week, Richard Koschmeider. I appreciate that. Neil Nelson as well, thank you. And Nana MT, Trilicit, Chanel Bivaliqua, Frank Miller III, and of course Sharon Davis. Thank you guys. Hope you're doing well. And I saw a lot of people are happy they see you in chat, Ilea. We've missed you. I know you've got a lot going on. Everybody does. It's been crazy. All right. And then, Dex, do you want to tell them how to get to the website?
Yeah, marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for today's show or hit the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here. And by the way, we put the link to that Kowloon Walled City on the page. So if you're looking for it, the one that Adam was showing you earlier, crazy history on that. You should watch it. Definitely worth it. He showed it to me the other day. I was like, wow, this is so cool. Fascinating stuff. So that's there, as well as all of the information we've covered today, including anything that we may not have covered. So it's all there. Like South Korean Airlines telling people not to open the emergency exits. Like, that's a problem. Apparently people are doing that. So it's kind of crazy. Anyway, who would think they'd have to tell people to stop doing it? But that's it. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show or hit that show notes link down below in the description.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Why has that happened 3 times in the last, what did it say? In this last 6 months? Why has that happened? It doesn't make any sense. The one gentleman did it. He jumped out, and after he put something there, Or is there something in the air? Is Scarecrow from Batman putting gas in the planes or something? It's weird. All right, and then thank you to a few new members: Lori Smith, 21 Julio Jones. Thank you, Gunslinger 67, Darth V, Grace for Purpose, Susie Camo, TR. Thank you, Tammy Lee, Patricia, Mystery School, Three Horses Running, Matthew Shaw. Thank you. Tammy Witten, Juanita's Review, Danish Girl, R Guy 936, Scrappy Doo. Thank you for popping over to YouTube to do that. That's really cool. And then Humpty Bumptua, Lewis Dennings, and Tracy K. Over on D-Live, lots of great people. We have our whole family over there. Michelle K, Scosmos, DFW Jackie, Home Network, Kimbria, Robert 49, DFW Jackie, Salty Toes, Kimbria, Poco Loco, can never forget you, Michelle K. Thank you for making it several nights in a row. Thank you, Skyhouse. Thank you, One Aunt B. And of course, Johnson, thank you so much for gifting out ice creams. I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you. Love you guys. And of course, be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. If you don't like bad music, tune out now. If you like bad music, you should probably tune out now. But this is where I say thank you to the people who matter most. You. Thank you. Hey, Laura, nice to see you. Word at the brink, go to world, hey. Word at the brink, word at the brink, word at the brink, bring, word at the brink, word at the brink, word at the brink, go to world, hey. Word at the brink, word at the brink, word at the brink, bring, word at the brink, word at the brink, word at the brink, go to world, hey. Word at the brink, word at the brink. I'll bring it home down and I go and I ask you. I still mold in a WIS, Gin in the James McGowan. Hey, home with a Sean on C, James Garcia with a EIE. I said, hey, home back with a Brian Knight, Tides and C and Mr. Right. I said, hey, home man with a glory gravy. Everybody now when they go and dip it. Whole load of scales and we know it. I said the hail of the firestorm made man. I said, hey, what a gunslinger ding dong day. On bing on the back with a bing bong bang. I'm gonna say I'm gonna be here for W. Jackie and now I go to a raid. Bye, Leah. Thank you.